This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. We begin tonight with a Chinese saying, politics is war without bloodshed. For today, at least, the students in China appear to be winning that war. There was another large demonstration in Beijing today. The students, no longer content to demand talks with the government, are demanding a new government. At the very least, a major shake-up in the current leadership, which, as best we can tell, is exactly what the leadership is struggling with behind the scenes. Today, for the first time since last weekend, we have been allowed to transmit from Beijing by satellite. Here again is ABC's John Lawrence.
It was the biggest demonstration in Beijing since martial law was imposed early Saturday, and it signaled a possible shift in the political struggle for power in China. It was led by intellectuals and included workers, journalists, academics, and students on the 11th day of their sit-in demonstration. The main target of the protest was Premier Li Peng, the hardliner who ordered martial law to crack down on the demonstrators. Some marchers shouted, "Li Peng is an enemy of the people." A heavy afternoon rainstorm did not deter the marchers. Earlier, two men splattered paint on the portrait of Mao Zedong in the square. It was taken down and replaced. Students say they were not responsible. On television here, pictures of the anti-Li Peng protest were shown. They were also reported by the government-controlled news agency Xinhua for the first time. A People's Army officer said on TV, "We will never shoot at the people," while Xinhua announced that some army units have been withdrawn from Beijing. This army unit was still stranded 10 miles west of the city Tuesday morning. It has been blocked by the people for 4 days. A soldier says, "We will not attack the people." Some of the people are growing weary of the army presence.
Since the soldiers come here, everybody in disorder. So the people are very angry. The people really want to drive them away.
Communist Party leader Zhao Ziang, who met with hunger-striking students last week and then disappeared from view when his rival Li Peng declared martial law, may be making a comeback in the power struggle. A leading moderate in the government, Zhao is said to be back in charge of the party. At Tiananmen Square, the number of students staging the sit-in may be declining, partly due to fatigue, but their spirit seems strong.
We need a rest. We have been here for a long time and we are very tired. But we, after have a good rest, we'll come back here.
We people will win and Li Peng will be defeated.
It is dawn Wednesday in China now, and the number of students still here in the square is down to a few thousand. Their fortunes seem to rely largely on the outcome of the struggle for power between Zhao Ziang and Li Peng, a struggle that does not appear to have been decided yet. John Lawrence, ABC News, Tiananmen Square, Beijing.
But as you can see there, for the 5th straight day of martial law, the demonstrators in Tiananmen Square have successfully defied the government. Elsewhere in the city, there was little sense of trouble or confrontation. Here's ABC's Mark Litke.
The people of Beijing were actually relaxed and smiling today, increasingly confident that the thousands of troops on the outskirts of town will stay where they are. Not even the children are afraid of the soldiers, shouting friendly greetings as they wait for school. After days of apprehension following the declaration of martial law, optimism is now in the air. Life is returning to normal. Traffic cops are back on the job. The city is moving again. On national TV, the Transportation Department announced that the subways are operating and most of the city's buses are running. Those student demonstrators are still holding on to 100 or so to use as barricades just in case. Business was brisk in shopping districts. The government had warned of widespread shortages and higher prices. People here say it was a ploy to frighten them so they wouldn't support the students. Supplies still made it to market and no one went hungry. But perhaps the most refreshing sign of normalcy, the garbage brigade finally made it into Tiananmen Square, hauling out tons of foul-smelling debris. Clearly, this uprising has crippled a government, but not the spirit of the city or its people. Even in the midst of political turmoil, there's still a place for a carefree couple to waltz in the streets. Mark Litke, ABC News, Beijing.
They were not waltzing in Shanghai today, where the demand for Premier Li Peng's resignation echoed through the streets. Once again, thousands of workers join students on the march. ABC's Todd Carroll is in Shanghai.
There's a fervor here for change and resistance to authority. Students march on the streets by the thousands, shouting for the resignation of Premier Li Peng. Workers and the unemployed gather in the People's Square. At the headquarters of the city government and the Communist Party, the doors are still closed. That's not enough to stop the protesters. Ask an old man what he thinks will happen, and the answer is clear.
Maybe a very great strike is going on. That's everyone ready.
A call for a general strike has gone out. Almost no one believes the government-controlled press, so crowds gather around shop windows where reports from Hong Kong newspapers are plastered, or read underground handbills posted across the city. Reporters from the World Economic Herald have put up photos showing people how troops have been kept from Beijing. Snapshots are taken off TV sets by people who have access to satellite transmissions of American newscasts. The newspaper has been a leading voice in favor of reform, and its editor was fired last month, further angering the protesters. But he's preparing to fight the party in what he sees as a test case for press freedom. And Qin Bun Li has some advice for Premier Li Peng. Restrain yourself and calm down.
The people want a peaceful solution to China's political crisis now. And unless government leaders seize the initiative and begin a true dialogue, the protesters could shut down this city's economy. Todd Carroll, ABC News, Shanghai.
The crisis in China has cut short an official Chinese visit to Washington. Wan Li, the chairman of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress, left Washington this evening after a meeting with President Bush. The students in China want him home. Wan is considered a moderate, and the students hope his return will influence the power struggle within the government and help force the resignation of Premier Li Peng. In a moment, some of the day's other news. Who stretched the rules on ethics? The House Ethics Committee or the Speaker, Jim Wright? And later in the broadcast, why the Israelis will not let Palestinians go to school, and whether drug charges against him are unfair and ought to be dropped. Here's ABC's Jim Wooten.
After the usual amenities, they got down to the business of history, the first ever charges against the Speaker, and his attorney was the first to speak.
I'm Steve Sussman. I'm Jim Wright's lawyer. I've been wondering for the last few days what I'm doing here.
He knew very well why he was there, of course, to take his best shot for a beleaguered client who, despite his cheery smile as he went off to work today, is besieged by rumors that he may soon be out of a job.
So why go through the movements? Why worry about due process for a dead man? Because if a member of Congress, indeed the most powerful member of Congress, cannot get a fair trial, no American can.
Sussman accused the press of having already tried and convicted the Speaker. He called the media a lynch mob, and with Mrs. Wright by then in the audience, he defended her husband's book royalties in lieu of speaking fees and their relationship with George Malik, a friend and business partner, as well within the letter of the law, whatever the appearances. But the Ethics Committee's lawyer, Richard Phelan, insisted that appearances and reality are both significant.
What we are dealing with is the integrity of this institution. We are dealing with the confidence of the American public.
As to the specifics, Wright's lawyer argued that Malik's alleged gifts of a condominium and a Cadillac were irrelevant because Malik had no direct interest in savings and loan legislation, because Malik owned no stock, served on no board, and had no deposits in an S&L.
And who at the time didn't even have a loan outstanding to a savings and loan organization.
Actually, as the committee already knows, Malik did owe more than $800,000 to a New York savings and loan at the time. But such details are fading in importance to many Democrats in the House, where a sad consensus is growing that if the committee doesn't dismiss most of these charges against the Speaker, he'll have to resign. Jim Wooten, ABC News, Capitol.